Hi, my name is Thomas, aka MrWartburg, and this is the 20th episode of the MrWartburg Show. Last week I did mention that I was going to do maybe something Rooster Teeth community focused. That's going to get pushed back a week just to kind of get some submissions and work a little bit on the scripting and how I want to actually say what I want to say. This week, though, we're talking about something that is also very near and dear to my heart, and that is TV. Now, if you watch me stream, if you watch me do YouTube videos, whatever, and Let's Plays, I talk a lot about TV, about shows I watch, which in a given week, I'll run you through my general week as of right now, counting Game of Thrones, which will come back in a week from the date of filming, and another show that's going to come back in May after a very weird and awkward hiatus. So it's going to start off with, I think, Tuesday night we'll go with that, and that is Flash and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which are back-to-back. Different networks, of course, but I watch them back-to-back. Wednesday is Arrow Supernatural, back-to-back in one 2-hour DVR block. Thursday, it's Blacklist, The 100, and Legends of Tomorrow. Not in that order. Usually I end on The 100 or Blacklist. Legends of Tomorrow is, I think, the weaker of the three by quite a good ways, but The 100's awesome. And then it would probably go Person of Interest. I can't remember what day of the week that's going to air when that comes back for Season 5, which I think is May 3rd, whatever day that comes out to be. I think that's maybe even a Tuesday. Is it? Maybe. And then, of course, rounding out on Sunday, Game of Thrones, as I already mentioned. So that's a lot of TV. And it was even more when Justified was on the air or Being Human was on the air. I'm always watching a lot of TV, even more than playing video games and watching movies. TV is probably my main source of media outside of, internet content, like on Rooster Teeth, Funhouse, Kinda Funny, stuff like that. So for the purpose of this video, we're going to be talking about my top 10 all-time TV shows, not counting cartoons. I've already done a cartoon episode, which you can go watch right here. And it's annotated, so you can click right to it or watch it in the playlist, whatever you want to do. And I've already ran through what I'm watching right now, which are my favorites on TV right now. If they weren't, I wouldn't be watching them. So there's really no point in diving into them, other than to say they're all worth the time, especially the 100. I am very glad I finally got on the hype train, thanks to not only my sister, but also shout out to Eric Goldman on Twitter for not only that show and something that actually is already on my top 10 all-time list, and it's not even done. So without further ado and further rambling from myself, here's the top 10. We're going to do it in ascending order, so 10 to 1. And outside of the top 2 or 3, it's really splitting hairs. There's not a definitive difference, substantial difference between them. It was more, okay, what's in my top 10? I had about 15 shows that I was working with and I had to pare down. So there are some that didn't quite make the cut, and I'll start off with those, I guess. So some shows that didn't make the list would be Being Human, the U.S. version that aired on Sci-Fi. That's because I'm a huge Sam Witwer fan, and honestly, who isn't? As well as Farscape, which was a really unique sci-fi show, and a time where we really only had Star Trek and Stargate. It was its own entirely unique thing, just kind of out there on its own. Sadly, it didn't get a finish on its own on network or on TV, but it did get a wrap-up with a fan-produced series, the Peacekeeper Wars, or miniseries, or two-parter, whatever you wanted to call the thing. It was a nice way to wrap up all the storylines, and a really awesome ride for 4 seasons, plus that Peacekeeper War. And there's a few of the others out there as well. The 100 is already in my top 20, and it didn't make quite the cut for the top 10 just because I watch a shit ton of TV, so it's got a lot of competition, and for all I know, it could finish there. Same with The Flash. It's only had 2 seasons, so if they have a couple more of their current sustained success, yeah, it's probably going to start vaulting up into that list, just that the ones are ahead of it, either a little bit older, have finished their runs, or have just been flat-out more consistent and more awesome. So on to number 10. That would be one of my favorite kind of comedy more type of shows, and that would be Psych, which aired on USA. Huge fan of that show, its humor, the way it kind of poked fun at procedurals, especially The Mentalist, and just never took itself too seriously, but definitely knew how to hit you right in the feels. In particular, I'm thinking it was season 4. Was that the one where Mary died at the hands of Yang or Yin? Whatever one of those two were. It's been a while since I've watched the older episodes, but it's all on Netflix. So if you want to dive into it, much like I should probably do this summer when everything's kind of off, definitely worth your time. Because Sean Spencer, Burton Guster, they're awesome. Juliet. It's the whole cast is fantastic, and it's just a hell of a lot of fun watching a TV show. You're never it's so different compared to like Game of Thrones. Oh, who's gonna die this week? It's not that. It's just fun, and that's something there's not a lot out there, at least on the cable networks that I'm watching right now. And it was just a lot of fun for the 8 seasons that it managed to stay on the air. Now, number 9 aired on originally the WB network before that kind of went under, and then transitioned to the CW along with Supernatural, and that would be Smallville. Aired for 10 seasons, and kind of was one of the first, can we do superheroes on TV? Maybe not the first, but definitely the longest lasting, and proving that yes, you can do it. And yes, you can do it for 10 seasons. It got long in the tooth there in the middle. It just didn't make a whole lot of sense. It felt like they weren't going in directions that didn't make a lot of sense, and then they killed off Lex, and it went kind of weird in the middle. Rebounded great in seasons 9 and 10, though. Holy crap, if you stuck through and got through seasons 9 and 10, that was just good damn shit. The real reason I like Smallville so much is the fact that it actually treated most of the Superman mythos with respect, and it absolutely nailed Clark Kent, the relationship with his parents. I loved the dichotomy that they did between Lex and Clark and them actually having been friends, and like really close friends, and then the fallout, and them kind of separating, as well as working in Lionel Luthor, played by the awesome John Glover. Like I said, his parents were fantastic, far superior to what we've seen in the movies, particularly Man of Steel and Batman vs. Superman. And like the whole last couple seasons of him being Clark working for the Daily Planet, and then that flash forward into he's in the elevator with him at the same time, was awesome. And the show has the definitive, hands down version of Lex Luthor and Lois Lane. Nobody's, I think, done it better over all the other incarnations of Superman, at least in live action. For number 8, we're going to keep it on the same network family. Much like Smallville, this one aired on WB, transitioned to CW after it collapsed, and that would be Supernatural. Now, it's in its 11th season now, which is absolutely insane. But there's something just uniquely cool about a 67 Impala, a trunk full of guns, and 2 brothers jamming out to classic rock and killing monsters. Super simple, and over 11 seasons, it's been consistently awesome. Granted, seasons 6, 7, and kind of the beginning part of 8, not so much, but has rebounded awesomely with Jeremy Carver coming back when he was on the show from seasons 1 through 5. He was one of the head writers. Has come back as the showrunner on seasons 8 through the present, and it's definitely been felt. Sarah Gamble in season 6 and 7, she was alright. She just wasn't Eric Kripke, and to be honest, I don't know of many showrunners that could be an Eric Kripke, but Jeremy Carver is pretty awesome. I mean, he ran Being Human, which is in my honorable mentions for the seasons. I think that one, did that go 4 seasons or 5 seasons? 4 seasons. He ran that show in its entirety, and it was an awesome show, much in the same vein as Supernatural at its heyday. And he's done awesome on Supernatural. And there's just something cool about a show that can go that long and still have fun. Supernatural just absolutely nails meta-comedy. Ben Edlund is one of their kind of more comedic writers, takes the lead on those type of roles. And this is the guy that created The Tick, like one of the best kind of parody superhero things out there. He was a lead writer one of the writers on Firefly. And has a really awesome catalog of, this dude just knows how to write comedy. And the way they shoot it, and Jensen Ackles and Jared Padalecki are great in the roles that they're given on those kind of meta-comedy episodes. And some of them, like French Mistake, Changing Channels, they're right up there with the best just kind of comedy episodes on TV in general. I mean, I'd probably give French Mistake 10s out of 10s across the board, and that's pretty rare in TV, as well as Changing Channels. Not only was that show, that episode, hilarious, also at the back end, boom, a massive punch of lore. It was awesome. And then, season 11, they did an entire show from inside a car. All the camera angles, everything is in the car. Incredibly cool. And that's something that most shows wouldn't even attempt in their prime of season 2, which is most seasons where they really hit their stride. Supernatural is season 11, what haven't we done? That. Not only did they go do it, fucking nailed it. It was fantastic. And season 11 hasn't been quite as good as the season 1 through 5 run, but it's still definitely been a fun ride so far, and people should check it out. Number 7, staying in the network broadcast section of the TV realm, but switching networks over to CBS, and that would be Person of Interest. Much like what I said about the 100 and how I got into it, it's pretty much mostly because of Eric Goldman of IGN and his constant tweeting about it, and as well as a couple of his reviews and their headlines that kind of grabbed me, and his how they've explained the show. And I'm super, super glad I dove into it when it hit Netflix last fall. And I was waiting for months for season 4 to come out. It just, they kept pushing it back and never saying when it was going to come out. And I, rejoiced to the heavens when season 4 dropped because I could finally get caught up. And the season 5 hiatus, I don't know why it took so long. I mean, it's kind of weird for Person of Interest in that it's a leased show from what I gathered. Like, CBS is kind of like leasing the rights for something from another company. It's weird compared to their own in-house shows. But I'm glad that it's going to get a finish. It's going to start on May 3rd, I believe, for the 5th and final season. It's going to be a shortened, I think, 13-episode run. So they're going to get to finish their actual vision that they had for their 5-year plan. And it's just been a hell of a ride. I mean, it's kind of those, like, slightly futuristic sci-fi, maybe even present-day sci-fi type shows. You know, you got a couple of AIs, you got perper victim, like, mysteries, which a lot of shows try to do but don't do well. And Person of Interest nails it just the entire way through with a great cast. You know, like, I believe this is Michael Emerson is one of the leads, Jim Caviezel, Sarah Shahi, I don't know how to say her last name. And the whole cast is awesome. The whole show is awesome. Go watch it. All right, with number 6, we're getting into the premium cable side of things, and that would be Game of Thrones, which Season 6 is launching right around the corner. Game of Thrones, for a lot of people, like, I've never read the books, but I know some people who have, and they point and say, you know what? With how they're really kind of adapting the books, which are heavy freaking beasts from what I've seen, and I have the books, I've just never finished them, they've done an awesome job translating that and making that political intrigue, which is awesome to read and stuff, and actually putting it on screen. And doing it faithfully and making it engaging and exciting and tension just all over the damn place. And I cannot wait for the finale, because Season 5 was a bridge season. It just felt like that. It felt like it was all right, all the stuff kind of wrapped up in 1 through 4, so we know where all the pieces are. Now we got to position the pieces for the end game. And despite that, it was still riveting to watch, even though you got the sense that, yes, it's all set up at this point. Like, nothing super impactful is going to happen right now, except for the very finale, which was freaking crazy. And I cannot wait to see where those threads pick up in the Season 6 premiere. That one is a little tougher to get into if you haven't started, because, of course, it's on HBO, so it's not on Netflix. But you can get HBO Now, which is a free subscription, or you have a free trial for it. It's $14.99 a month. You can watch it on your Android device, computer, any Apple device, and Roku, Chromecast, and pretty much most smart devices like that. Sadly, no console support yet, which sucks, because that's like 20% of the HBO Go base. So I hope they get off their butts and actually fix that, because I'd love to be able to watch it on my Xbox, but can't right now, so I'm going to watch it on my computer and do that route, because I don't want to pay my cable company. I'd rather just pay HBO directly, which is pretty cool that that's a thing that's happening in the TV realm right now. But that's for a later topic. Number 5, the top 5. This was kind of even harder than the last bit to put together, because there's a lot of shows that could fit into my top 5, and I had to, really separate out all right, what is that good? Now for me, I'm a huge sci-fi guy, much more than I am like Lord of the Rings, Swords and Sandals type of things, like Game of Thrones style stuff, and that's the reason I kind of flopped between my 5 and 6. So at 5, I'm putting Fringe, which was an awesome sci-fi series that I'm super glad Fox let finish with its Season 5. The alternate universe, like, realities thing, and it was just kind of crazy out there, even for Fox, and the fact that it was on broadcast television is pretty damn cool. And they just went crazy with the Fringe science. It was fantastic, especially the early seasons where they were just kind of really, okay, it's kind of gory in its first few seasons, much like the first few seasons of Supernatural, until they kind of toned it down in later seasons, which I hope they get back to Supernatural. But through it all, the reason I really like that show so much is the main interaction of the big 3, as well as kind of 4 with Astrid, and that's, number 1, John Noble as Walter Bishop is just freaking awesome. Like, in the opening pilot, and one of the moments, like, leading, I think it's about halfway through, where he's like, excellent, let's make some LSD. Like, yes, I'm going to love this show, and I did for its entirety, and I believe it's still all on Netflix, I think, which is awesome, because you should watch it, because sci-fi fucking rules. I gotta look up what I did for number 4. Be right back. Alright, so for number 4, since I had to take a quick peek at my Word document, because I don't have a script in front of me, nor a teleprompter, so I'm doing this all in my head. Number 4, back to the cable realm, and that would be Justified. This was a show that kind of got lost in that kind of golden age of cable shows, like The Wire, S.H.I.E.L.D., things like that. Didn't get a lot of viewership compared to those other shows. And I think it's just as good, to be honest, specifically in the dialogue. I think it's got some of the best dialogue that I've ever watched on TV, and I've watched a shitload of TV. Specifically, a lot of the stuff that they give Gutterson to say, his character, and the lead marshal. God, I'm blanking on his name. I should have done more research into the characters before I did this video. But whatever, it's Sunday and I haven't finished this, so there's just some awesome stuff in there. Particularly season 2, the Bennett clan storyline, even season 3 with Hugh McDonough, however you say his last name. He's Dum Dum Dugan. He's Damien Dark in season 4 of Arrow. He's an awesome villain, and it wasn't as strong of a season in season 3 as season 2, much like most shows have that kind of problem. But his ability to just own the role and own the screen when he's on it definitely carries that season. And Timothy Olyphant is just perfect as Raylan Givens, and you're just going to want to watch this guy for the whole 6 seasons that it was on. It was a lot of fun. And if you have Amazon Prime, Amazon Instant Video has all of Justified. And it's definitely a show worth checking out if you're kind of into kind of a modern-day Western feel type show with some really snappy dialogue and some excellent kind of action, gunplay scenes. A lot of fun. Number 3 is a show that's kind of unique on my list. It's technically on TV now on the El Rey network, but much like the rest of the shows on this list, it's appointment viewing. The second it is on, I'm either DVRing it or I'm sitting down to watch it. And that would be Red vs. Blue, which is the longest-running web series out there. Like I said, now it is actually on TV. And it's also been on Netflix for a while, at least seasons 1 through 5, and you can watch all the 1 through 13, I think, or 1 through 12 on YouTube, and 1 through 13 on roosterteeth.com. It kind of started as this weird machinima thing, and then the lore just got deep. It just got crazy in the story. And then in season 6, they brought Monty Oum on board, the guy that made the Halo videos, and breathed new life into the series and brought some really cool action set pieces in, a show that used to be just 5 minutes of people talking to each other with heads bobbing up and down, and now we're in its own sci-fi universe inside of a Halo engine. Super unique, super cool, and totally appointment viewing to the point where I have traveled 5 hours to the Kansas City Alamo Theater just to watch season 13, the marathon, because they film them like a 2-hour movie, and they just chunk it into the 5 to 10 minute beats, depending on how long they want the individual episodes to go. And specifically seasons 11 through 13 is where it really just went, oh damn, these guys just know how to write some damn good entertainment. So shout out to Miles Luna for that shit, because that was awesome. And number 2 and number 1, these two, I have batted them back and forth between what's going where constantly. I just don't know the best way to order them. So I'm going to just go with my gut just really fast. And number 2 will be Battlestar Galactica, the reimagined series in the 2004 run from Sci-Fi. Like I said, I love sci-fi, and I fucking loved Battlestar Galactica. When it was on Netflix, I watched it 3 times all the way through, back to back. And one of those times, yes, I was recovering from a stomach surgery, so I didn't have anything to do. So I was able to knock it out in a week, which was crazy even for me, watching as much TV as I do. But it was well worth it. Super well acted. The way it's shot is really cool, and everything just looks freaking awesome, specifically the ship's design and the way they kind of reimagine what has already been done in that 80s or 70s series. Excuse me. Can't remember when exactly that part came out, but they just kind of made it their own. They didn't even try to remake it. They just made it their own, and much for the better. And it was easily one of the top shows, in the last 20 years, at least for me, only topped by my number 1, and that would be Chuck. Which, if you're a nerd like myself, you probably love Chuck. And it's probably in your top 5 too. Because holy shit, did that show just blend nerd humor, drama, action, spy-fi into one awesome package. The stuff with the Intersect and his relationships with his family and Morgan and John Casey and Sarah, who's Monstrophe is so awesome. And it's just an awesome run in its 5 seasons. And I'm sad it got a shortened final season. I'm very glad NBC let it finish. And yeah, season 5 kind of ended on that was the main villain you went with? I don't know. I'd have just found a better actor, which is much why I'm really not a huge fan of Legends of Tomorrow right now, because their Vandal Savage is just not Vandal fucking Savage. Another topic as a whole anyway, though. But the core of the show is, Chuck and the main cast, and they all play off each other so damn well. You got Brandon Routh's awesome turn as a villain in season 3. I mean, his parents are Scott Bakula and Sarah Connor. What? It's just nerd, overload all over the damn place. And it was fantastic, and it just was an awesome ride on NBC. Definitely a show that, like I said, if you're a nerd like me and you have not watched Chuck, please go fix your life, because you're going to watch that show and go, oh, thanks, Wartburg. I am now a better person for doing so. So that's my top 10 all-time favorite TV shows list. What's your list? What's on your weekly television viewing list? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, if you liked the video, drop that like and hit the subscribe button to stay up to date with all my latest videos. And I'll see you next week.